If I told you that there are some cheeses that are illegal in the United States, would you believe me? Well, believe it or not, there are several cheeses that are actually banned from entering the United States. This is due to concerns that are related to bacteria. But luckily for all cheese lovers, such as myself, cheese is legal and readily available at my closest grocery store. And if you love cheese just as much as I do, knowing how to make cheese at home is a wonderful yet dangerous thing to know how to do. Although the thought of making cheese seems very intimidating, it really is not as hard to do as I once thought. There are 8 basic steps in the making of cheese, and I will be discussing them with you today. First, you're going to start with fresh warm milk. In this case, the fresher the better. If fresh milk is not available to you, you can warm up your milk on the stove. If you are wondering what type of milk you should use, well, that is left up to the person making it. You could use 2% whole milk, skim milk, goat milk. Um, so, uh, Once you have warmed up your milk, you're going to then acidify the milk by dumping acid, either vinegar or citric acid, right into the milk to get the correct acidity. You could also just add live bacteria or cultures to the milk to obtain the acidic effect. After you have successfully completed this part of the process, you are then going to add a coagulant to the milk. The most commonly used coagulant would be rennet. This enzyme causes the proteins within the milk to bond together. There are also a few different varieties of coagulants that can be used, so if you are a non-meat eater, you can still make cheese. The next step in this process would be waiting for your choice of coagulant to do its work. When it has worked on the milk proteins, you should be able to press on the surface of the milk and it should be a firm gel consistency. When it has reached the perfect firmness, this is when you will cut the curds down from the giant blob that it will be into smaller cubes and or chunks. You must keep in mind that the size you cut the curds will affect the amount of moisture that is retained in the final product. If you cut the curds into smaller pieces, the drier your cheese will be, as well as the opposite. The larger you cut the curds, the more moist your cheese will be. Now, depending on the recipe that you are following, you will spend the next several minutes to an hour stirring the curds in the vat. What is happening during this process is that the acid is still developing inside the curd, basically from the motion of your stirring. So essentially, the more you stir, the drier your cheese will actually end up. After this process, you will wash your cheese. This is going to remove some of the whey from the vat and replacing it with water. Your final product will be a bit milder and sweeter in taste. You will then use the drain. You will then drain the curds and completely separate the curds from the whey. This is most commonly done with the use of a cheesecloth. You will want to do this process while your cheese is still warm to prevent the cheese from actually cooling too much and making it more difficult for your cheese to hold together. The final step would be adding salt. Most sites will recommend that you mold your cheese into a wheel before salting it. You may be able to age your cheese at this point as well for a more complex flavored cheese. All in all, there are several different yet easy steps to making delicious cheese in the comfort of your own home. This process may seem intimidating, but after you are finished, you will realize that it is not that bad. The fresher the ingredients, the better in this case. Well, I think that in any case when making something from scratch, freshness is definitely the key. Keeping up with the steps make the process almost foolproof as well. Even for myself, who was completely intimidated by this process, I think that my cheese will come out pretty well. In conclusion, I want you to walk away from this speech knowing how much I really do love any and almost every type of cheese that this amazing world has to offer. I look forward to trying many different variations of making cheese in the comfort of my own kitchen.